Interface Video, in cooperation with Fairfield Federal, presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fair Hope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, Fairfield County Adam H., Dagger Law, and the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities.
Hello friends, and welcome to Fairfield Today. I'm Paul Jasmine, host. Thank you for joining us. We're glad you're here. Well into winter in central Ohio. We know that's around us, and gosh, if you live in Ohio, this is what winters really used to be like. I can remember when I was a kid here. I can remember getting basketballs at Christmas time as a Christmas present, and you go outside and they would hardly bounce because it was so cold. You had to shovel the court wherever you were playing, your driveway or wherever you did. But for the last couple of years, I think we've gotten a little bit spoiled. Well, now it's an officially an Ohio winter. And a guy that has to deal with this on a day-to-day basis is Superintendent of the Lancaster City Schools, Steve Wigton. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Always my pleasure, Paul.
So now on top of everything else, you've got all the COVID things going on, and now you've got weather-related.
Now we have weather. Yeah, we were doing all right in the, in our blended model. We've been able to be consistent.
Yeah.
But now, with the weather, that's been the most disruption that we've had. And, here we sit on a Tuesday. This is the third Tuesday in a row that we have had to cancel school. And the problem with that is when you're in a blended model, you only have half the kids coming in on Monday or on Tuesdays. That means that the students that come in on Tuesday, they'll have missed 3 days.
I was going to say they've already missed three now.
Whereas the other students haven't had to miss because we haven't been.
So when they stay home, do they have assignments then well as the normal ones at home?
They don't. Well, on the you're talking about the calamity days. The calamity days, nobody has any assignments that they have to complete. But on the days, the remote days, what we call remote days, then they do have assignments to complete. So
and again, Lancaster City Schools, some call it hybrid. Lancaster City Schools, it's called blended. So let's recap that. That is so half the students come in 2 days, maybe a Monday and Wednesday.
It's actually it's Tuesday, Thursday.
Oh, and then Wednesday, Friday.
Wednesday,
and
Friday.
Then everybody is online Monday.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
And that's worked out well, you think?
It has worked out well for us, yeah. Up until, we get the weather, and then cancellations really become a problem because you're dealing with half the kids, and, keeping the balance of education becomes important. So we try to work that out.
And a big thing these times, since last we talked, it's been a while, since last we talked, vaccinations are a big deal now.
Right.
How is that working for the schools? Are teachers are considered essential workers?
They are in Ohio, yes.
Yes.
Teachers, our staff, all Fairfield County school employees are going to be vaccinated the week of February 22nd. I think it starts on the 25th. Thursday the 25th will be the first group. Our employees are getting vaccinated on Saturday, February 27th.
Okay.
So that'll be
already got the date.
Yeah, that'll be the first round, and then the second round will
month later.
It'll be a month later if it's the Moderna. It'll be 3 weeks later if it's Pfizer. We don't know what we're getting and won't know until
you're ready to get it though.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Have the teachers pretty much been able to, even with all this going on, have you had a lot of COVID issues at the schools?
Well, we do have had
an average amount like everybody.
Yeah, staff affected.
Sure.
We do allow staff, if they're quarantined at home, if they're teachers, if they have a job where they can work from home, we do allow for that. So that's helped us, and that's enabled us to stay in school. We've had teachers that have had to be quarantined or isolated, and as long as they can teach from home under those conditions, we allow for it. And so, we haven't had to take any days off because of employee shortage, which is very fortunate.
Very good. The man behind the Golden Gale mask there is Lancaster City School Superintendent Steve Wigton. And Steve, it's only 30-some days now till spring. I know that seems like an eternity away with the winters.
I don't know what Punxsutawney Phil said. It's going to be a late spring. So,
well, Buckeye Chuck said the opposite.
Well, I'm going with Buckeye Chuck.
So graduation will be coming up
Yeah.
here really before you know it.
Yeah.
Now, last year you did sort of a drive-through, drive-by kind of
Right,
graduation. It was
right.
something where the kids could still get involved,
Yep.
and you're going to move from that to a little more normal kind of graduation.
We are,
Is
yeah,
your plan?
we are. That's correct, because we do plan to be in school certainly by then. By this spring, we plan to be all back in. We haven't set a date yet on that, but that day is coming. And so for graduation, we do intend to have graduation out at Fulton Field. There'll be a modification on how many people can attend, just like there has been
Sure.
for sporting events. We'll
Sure.
have to reduce that. There'll be some other modifications. We may be using both sides of the stadium, those sort of things. But we do plan to have a traditional graduation with some attendance modification.
And I haven't had Pam Bosser on for a while.
Yeah.
I can imagine poor Pam is pulling her hair out right now.
Oh, yeah.
But you can probably speak to some of that. I imagine the scheduling aspect of athletics with the uncertainty of what's scheduled tomorrow might not be there.
Right.
And it has to be rescheduled
Right.
or in the league and things
Right.
like that. Now with basketball, so many games
Yep.
going on.
Right.
I imagine that's one of the more tenuous situations
yeah.
as athletics.
Certainly it is. Weather cancellations are typical,
Yep.
but you throw in the COVID cancellations as well, and then you throw in the fact that if an athlete tests positive for COVID, then you have the whole contact tracing piece that has to happen. And that just is not just with our athletes, but it's also if they had a competition, then you've got to contact the other school and go through contact tracing there. So it's complicated.
It's just a crazy time.
It sure is, Paul.
It's a crazy time.
That's for sure.
And then you've got not only athletes and coaches, but you've got officials.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
You've got them
Yeah.
scheduled, and you've got them, and we'll see. And then all of a sudden there may be a call off there,
Yeah.
and backup officials. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, I guess, a never-ending possibility.
Right. There are quite a few disruptions that can happen with COVID, and we work through them. And I got to say that everybody has done a fantastic job of working through it. I think everybody understands the situation that we're in. When it comes to athletics, I think we're thankful that we're able to compete and have athletics.
For a while, it didn't look like
that's
that.
Exactly
it was
right.
changed.
So,
I think a year ago, everybody was maybe not as understanding, but now everybody really understands that everything is up in the air.
Yeah.
Everything is up for grabs,
Right.
and what's today might not be tomorrow.
Right.
Everybody gets it now.
Yeah. People, we've all learned how to be flexible.
Yeah.
It's been forced
If that's
upon
not your
us.
strong suit, you've learned how to do
exactly,
it.
Exactly.
And the big thing now, I think one of the big things we get to talk about here is in the last few years we've seen all the schools replaced, all new schools around,
Right.
fabulous looking grade schools. I see Medill when I drive down Sheridan Drive right there, and Mount Pleasant over here with what used to be North, and just fabulous. The West School out in the far west side now, just fabulous. Sherman and Ewing, are such.
Yeah.
We got right before all this happened, we got a nice tour from Steve Post at the Thomas
right.
Ewing. What a fabulous
Yes.
building, and Sherman, I'm sure, looks exactly the
It
same
is.
as that.
Yeah.
But the big news now is there's still one to come.
Still one to come, and that's in the planning process
Lancaster
right
High
now.
School.
Lancaster High School. Yeah, we've been in the planning process since November.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a large number of meetings, and we've been working on that floor plan to get that, and it's almost, it's coming. It's close to being finalized. We have a long main corridor we call Main Street. All the it's
Main Street.
Well, you think in terms of a picture, kind of a mall kind of thing, where you got that big walkway going down, and to the left will be all the classrooms, career tech towards the rear
Is
of the
it
building.
two-story?
Two-story classrooms.
Okay.
And then to the right will be all your common areas, your administration offices, your media center, your gymnasium. A field house is going to be in there as well. Auditorium, band room, cafeteria, art rooms are on the right side.
So I guess as you pull in now off of Fair Avenue with what used to be, and it still looks remarkable to look there and see that green grass instead of Thomas Ewing, because my whole life Thomas Ewing was there,
Right.
but, when it was built in the 50s. But eventually that's going to become, I guess, athletic
Ball
fields.
fields, yes.
Yeah, baseball,
yes.
maybe softball,
Well,
baseball.
softball, we're still working through
Okay,
that. That's
okay.
a fairly complicated process there.
Eventually the bus barns will be gone.
Eventually, the bus barns will be gone.
That'll still be athletics
Correct.
all through there.
Yeah. but
And,
we,
and then, go ahead.
Yeah, we're going to be moving on that pretty much, I think, this spring. We're trying to get things started down there on the Ewing property.
And of course, I mention this as often as I can. I'm a General Sherman kid.
That's right.
Grew up on the west side. I'm all about General Sherman, and I've told many people that this is the best Thomas Ewing ever looked right there now. That green grass and no building there.
Yeah,
That's the
right.
best it ever looked to me right now. I'm so happy to see that, but
Yeah, the good old Sherman rivalry. With
I've heard
Ewing.
people say, what
Yeah.
happened there? Did the Sherman people come over and tear it
Yeah,
up? I mean, that's the way they look at the west side, But then you've got the Rodashita tennis,
Yeah.
Fulton Field, the Rodashita,
Yep.
and then Scott Burry pointed it out to me, and I hadn't thought about this. When you turn off, when this is all done, when you turn off of Fair Avenue and head back toward the high school, all the way back will be Lancaster High School.
That's correct.
That's remarkable. I
Right.
mean, I don't know if it's a half mile. I'm not sure what that'll be. Maybe
Yeah.
even more than that. But that whole complex will be
Yep.
Lancaster High School.
Right.
And in this day and age, you just don't see that kind of green space
Yeah.
given to
Yeah.
one place like this.
Yeah.
It's going to be fabulous.
Yeah, it really will be. Yeah, it'll be fantastic. So,
And so the high school will be built behind where the high school is now.
that's correct.
Eventually, the high school will be torn down. Will that career building be gone too?
Yes, career
Okay.
building will go as well. Yep.
And it'll still be terrace like that? It'll be up in the back, or they're going to level that out? Or
It's still going to, the building will sit on the terrace.
Okay.
There'll be, obviously some earthwork to be done, but
will the entrances still be just the one coming down from 37, or will you have another one cut in closer to the school?
there will be an entrance for buses back on 37 on down, past the house.
Maybe sort of like Ewing is now, where people
Yeah,
will come in
there'll
one.
be two,
and,
right.
Yeah.
There'll be two entrances.
And you'll still have Fair Avenue
Correct.
coming in like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So far as you look at how it's all gone with the new schools, everybody probably couldn't be happier with everything.
Yeah, it's been very good. Our staff, enjoy these new buildings. The space allocations are so much larger, as you've seen in the Ewing.
That's fabulous.
Building.
For a junior high, that's,
Yeah.
I mean, any high school would be so glad to have that.
Right, and our high school's going to be, it's 360,000 square feet.
Oh.
It's huge. Yeah.
That's remarkable. What would it be now?
Right now it's, gosh, I think it's under 200,000.
Really? So
Yeah.
almost twice.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nearly twice.
Yeah. Now, we got to remember we have programs at Stanberry, so you got
Sure.
to factor that in. But-
And Stanberry will still
well, that's yet to be
Still up in the
determined.
air,
Yeah,
yeah.
because we still
TBD,
have,
to
we
be
still-
determined.
Yeah, TBD. Yeah.
everything. I guess be flexible.
Right. That's right. Well, central office is still there, so
Yeah.
or
Have it for something.
yeah.
Well, it's just been, now with the COVID thing, the way things are going, the blended learning, we hope that continues to go well in the spring. Maybe we'll see some changes here
Yeah,
to more
yeah.
full-time in-person learning,
we'll
maybe?
Be, yeah, we'll
That's
be
the
looking
plan
for
anyway?
full-time sometime here this spring.
Don't take that to the bank, anything?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. You notice I'm not throwing a date out there.
You heard it here
there's a
first, but
reason
we're a little
why.
flexible on that
Yeah,
right now.
uh-huh.
Steve Wigton with us from the Lancaster City Schools. Steve, thanks for the great job you and your staff have done, and all the educators in the system. We're just fortunate to have such a great system here in Lancaster. Thanks for
Well,
everything.
thank you, Paul.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Sure, love it very much.
Yep.
And we'll be back on Fairfield Today in just a moment.
The Frankie Smith Funeral Home and Crematory in Lancaster and the Johnson Smith Funeral Home in Baltimore have a long and wonderful history of serving our community. Feel free to give us a call at 740-653-0652. Stop in and see us at either of our two locations, 405 North Columbus Street in Lancaster and 207 South Main Street in Baltimore. Respect for tradition, regard for change.
Fairfield Federal. When it comes to our customers and our community, we go above and beyond to help. Our people make the difference.
We were retiring from Tucson, Arizona, and we made a retirement trip out around Ohio, having decided that's where we wanted to be. And we came across this town called Lancaster, and we fell in love with the downtown area where the fountain is and the memorials and the flags and all this stuff. And we looked around and I said, there's our bank right there.
There's something to be said about a community bank in your hometown.
Right. If you live in the community, you should do business in the community as much as possible. So it makes sense to bank with the community bank where you live.
Fairfield Federal is the bank to be at. If you live in this town, or any town actually, you want to bank at a local home bank. And the employees are happy here, they're conversant, customer service is through the roof. There's nothing more you could ask for.
Personal or business banking, whatever you need, we take it seriously because we know you do. Stop by today at any of our 3 locations and see why the difference is clear. Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan specializes in banking that revolves around you.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to Fairfield Today. We appreciate the great update from Steve Wigton on the Lancaster City Schools. In the previous show, which would have been a week ago, one of the guests we had on was Tim Oatney from Oatney CPA firm, and I made the reference to the little axiom that nothing's certain except death and taxes. Well, we'll find out about the other half of that today. We have with us Eric Smith, and Eric is funeral director at the Frankie Smith Funeral Home. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, sure thing, Paul. Sure thing.
And as I think back on how 2020 and almost anybody we've talked to on this show, I would say anybody, has had an effect, mostly detrimental, and I'm sure in your firm that's been the way that is too. But many businesses had to close. They were not there for a couple months. They couldn't go on, but that wasn't the case for you folks. And as I understand it, really with all that's been going on, it's been really busy at your firm.
Yes. We have been busy.
Yes.
Right in the beginning, back in March.
A year ago.
Yeah. Basically, when everybody else was on lockdown, we still had to go out. You cannot stop the wheel that is death. But the worst thing that I ever saw was that month of lockdown, when people were literally dropping off their loved ones to a hospital. Couldn't escort them in. The next time they saw them was in a casket at our funeral home with only 9 other people that they could help with their grief. That was
And you heard
awful.
countless stories, worse other places, maybe in New York or someplace like this, but people would go in a nursing home, they'd go in a hospital, and as you said, that's the last time. They might be maybe a FaceTime call, maybe through a glass, somehow through a window, but it was horrible. And you guys probably saw that day in, day out.
We did, and that was really, really hard. And it was very bad. We're in a selected independent funeral home group, and one of the gentlemen, he's in New York, and some of the just basically the buildup and the atrocity, lots of deaths were just overwhelming to his firm and the things that they had to do, and it was just
you
not
saw
a
on
good
TV,
scenario.
you saw semis backed up to some places where they refrigerate, where they had to keep them. It was unbelievable.
They stated they had about 180 deaths, and they said they had their chapel. They would just go ahead and embalm people and just put them and place them where they could with just
difficult time.
Yeah, that was
so
nightmare.
Early on for this with your firm, and let's say a year ago now, let's say last March when this call started, and we didn't have much data to go on. We really were kind of blind in how this went. I'm sure for you folks, you guys had to go in pretty difficult situations with families, with masks, some not wearing masks. It was probably a real learning curve for you guys.
That definitely was. A lot of families were like, well, we're renting your facilities. This is like my home. I'm taking my mask off. It's like, no, you can't do that here.
Sure.
I know you want to do that. And then the governor was a little more relaxed after that. And that really helped things because he kind of put us in a gray area of, you can have up to 50 people in like a church service. So we were kind of lumped into that service.
Okay.
So then we had to reorganize everything, change all our seating around, do everything.
Social distancing.
As every business has had to do.
Sure.
it did make it just very difficult because every family is different, and everybody has that strange great uncle that he knows the right way, and he's always the right. So,
now, is your business? Are you folks? Not you yourself, but the funeral directors in general, are you considered essential workers? Have you all been vaccinated?
Great point. I'm glad you brought that up, Paul.
Good.
Because the state of Ohio has there's 2 states that have basically always been the most stringent and hardest to be. We have the most regulation in the state of Ohio and Minnesota. You have to have a degree. You have to do a lot of things in order to become a funeral director. And in saying so, we have one of the best organizations, that's the Ohio Funeral Directors Association, and they put all their effort and all their might into lobbying on the national level for all funeral directors in the nation to make sure that we were considered the 1A tier, and we got that, and that was great, except for then it got passed down to each and individual state, and all the other states said, well, except for like about 2 or 3, said, oh yeah, of course, you're the last responder, so we'll put you in that same category.
Yeah.
But the problem with that was it was too late. Somebody had already said, this is the list. Oh. And sorry, you didn't make that list here for Ohio. So
we're not going to redo that list.
Yeah, and by God, we can't change anything. We've already discussed this.
Yeah, I'm sure that would wrinkled a few feathers there, and
so a lot of our we're really not too happy with our local legislators and things like that.
So you've had to do it just like the rest of us. When your time comes to get your vaccination, that's when you get it.
Well, I'm a mean 41, and I don't think I'm going to.
It's going to be a while for you.
It's going to be a long while.
I'm 72 and I've had mine,
good.
Get it.
Yep. So long story short, that is very good. You know, my mother, she's gotten it. Dad's, I think, on the waiting list still.
Now, in your funeral home, as you said, funerals have changed even from a year ago till now. So really, so much of yours can be online now, right?
Correct. We're using Facebook Live for almost every service now. People do enjoy it. They can review something that they didn't see just a while back.
Sure.
Even if they were there themselves, which is nice, and they love that. So they can be part of the service. You can still send condolences, things like that, and that's the best way to do it. A lot of people from out of state now, it just makes it a lot easier for them too. They don't have to wait a week.
And the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, Eric Smith is with us from that 405. Columbus Street just up the block here a little bit, and you have your own crematory. I would imagine cremations has always been a big part of your business, but I would just guess that's increased.
Yes, cremation has gone through. Yes. We have more gravesides. We have more.
And that's really where it's gone, to gravesides for a long time.
Yes, gravesides. Oh yes, that's half the thing about Facebook Live is you can do that from your cell phone. So
you can even do it from the cemetery.
We would do it from the cemetery,
wow.
And actually, people would hand me their cell phones, like, do it on mine too. Yeah. I'm like, okay, that's an extra tripod.
Multiple, that's right. Yeah.
So
it's weird how it's changed, and it's certainly not over and how it's changing. But I would imagine, and I've talked to other businesses, other places like this, that if we would wave a magic wand and this would be all over today, tomorrow, you'd probably still use some of these things that you've learned how to do, thinking outside the box. These are maybe some of the things that you will pursue in the future.
Right. I didn't know how easy it was to film. In my mind, I needed a whole production team like you have, Paul. And long story even longer.
Interface would rent themselves out.
Yes, I'm sure they would. Long story short, the ease of use with technology today. Just a phone can do so many things.
There's an app for that.
There 100% is. There definitely is.
It's just been amazing as I read the obituaries when I see them, and at the end, because of COVID-19, they almost all have that disclaimer now. And again, limited people, graveside services, just streaming is available. I guess that's where we are now.
That is where we are. That is where we are, even in death.
Yeah. It's just been interesting to watch the evolution of your business from a year ago till now. It's changed dramatically.
It has. This past January, it was very it's probably the busiest we've ever been, like in the history of
Right before this,
about midway January.
it was just starting.
It was, well, that was kind of when we were really
Okay,
hit.
okay.
I hate to say it.
Sure.
It's probably people getting together for holidays,
sure,
things
sure.
like
More
that.
and more.
And we had a lot of more COVID deaths in our area. I look back from the year previous, and I was like, wow, we're doing a lot more business. I have a gentleman that I know. He's a young gentleman like myself, and he's up in, I don't know if I should tell him, but yeah, Shelby, Ohio. Anyway, last year, he recently purchased a funeral home, and last year at this time, he had done 2 funerals, and he was fine with that. This year, he had done 22 funerals. That's just shocking how the numbers can change so quickly, and even a small community.
Yeah.
So, but here in Lancaster, yes, we've been doing a lot more cremations, a lot more gravesides, a lot more not as big funeral services as you would see in the past.
Even with some big names, you just don't see the overwhelming number of people probably planning to attend or in line.
Right, that's 100% correct. Yes,
Yeah.
You have a lot of big wigs.
And Frankie Smith Funeral Homes, they of course own the one here in Lancaster at 405 Columbus Street, but you also own Johnson Smith up in Baltimore. Has all these trends that you've talked about been the same up there?
Yes, it has. Just limited things. Also more cremation, more gravesides, more same-day services.
Sure.
We just want to do everything together once, or a lot more private services. It's just going to be family today, and that's all we're going to do. So, and that's what people are choosing, and that's probably right now at this time to the benefit of everyone.
Yeah.
So,
And now, of course, as we talk about all the COVID things that have changed in your world and things have gone on, now winter has affected that, and so we always know that in the funeral business, that's, if anybody's ever had any funeral folks come to your home for an occasion that you need them for, it's much more difficult to do everything in this kind of weather, to get there, to just do everything. And so now on top of that, it's an interesting time.
It is. Yes. Even just last night, the night before, early morning, went on a removal, and yes, I got the removal van hung up. That's just went right off an asphalt driveway, got one wheel off, and eventually had 4 off. But the family's loved ones came to the rescue and actually pulled us out with a big old diesel dually, and I loved it, and I was very happy they were there. But yeah, even in this detrimental weather, we have a service right now, and our Baltimore location has a little bit of ice on it. And the guys were calling me right before this, just saying, "Hey, we got to do something. We're doing this, we're doing that." And I'm like, "Yep, switch things around." That's one thing in the funeral business. We always make it work. And long story short, if something else comes up, we just pivot. And
in the segment just before you here, we had Steve Wigton on with the Lancaster City Schools, and that was the line that he used with all that's going on, with much the same reasoning as yours with all the COVID things. You just have to be flexible, because what works today may or may not work tomorrow, and there's a good chance it won't work tomorrow.
That's 100% correct, Paul.
Yeah, it's amazing. So interesting time at the funeral home.
It is.
Hopefully no one has a reason to call them, but they're there. You guys have, your website is?
Funeralhome.com.
Funeralhome.com.
Yeah, it's a catchy one. That's actually one, my father, Frank R. Smith, he obtained that back in the 90s when that internet thing was just kind of a fad. So, it stuck around.
Wise choice.
Yeah, it was a wise one.
As well as the crematory, that's turned out to be a real blessing now, because so many things have gone to that. Your business has certainly changed that way. 100%. But again, I'm sure you're on Facebook, knowing how you, being a media mogul that you are and a social person. Any other social platforms?
Mainly Facebook, but our website has links to Twitter, to Facebook, to anything. So if you have a personal following, you can send out that one of your loved ones has passed, and people can react. And that's the nice thing.
If somebody wanted to talk to you about pre-planning, which I'm sure you still do, the number they could, if they wanted to phone.
740. 653-0652.
And people can still come in if they choose. You're still up for that?
They can. They can choose. We can make things happen. We've been doing a lot of things over the phone too. A lot of people just want to get their wishes on paper. It's nice to have that for your loved ones. There's no getting around that. So.
Well, it's again, you know, when you think about businesses that have not been able to close and can't take any time off, and through the worst of times, you folks have been there, the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, for that. And again, it's just a difficult time, but your business goes on, and you know, some businesses don't do quite as well. Some businesses have thrived a little bit through this, so we hope for a success in 2021 with you and everybody at the funeral home.
I appreciate that, Paul.
Sure. Eric Smith has been with us from the Frank E. Smith Funeral Home, and we appreciate you being with us here on Fairfield Today.
Interface Video, in cooperation with Fairfield Federal, presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fair Hope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Frank E. Smith Funeral Home, Fairfield County Adam H., Dagger Law, and the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities.